Greetings! Let's talk about the 6th episode of the first season of Supernatural. So, this episode seems a little unclear to me. I don't always understand why certain things happen. For example, where did the police come from and how did the police stop the werewolf from attacking Rebecca's house? So, that part remains unclear. For example, why the police were looking for Dean at the point. Actually, if the police had already seen him in the house where Rebecca was attacked, then it's understandable why they'd be looking for him. At some point in this episode, I simply stopped understanding what was happening on the screen. That the person on screen was suddenly someone else. It's just that the plot is unclear, or I was not watching carefully. It also doesn't help that I am trying to watch in English and I don't understand half of the dialogue. But it's just that in the previous series I understood everything clearly, but here it is somehow deeper probably. Either the series itself is deeper, or I don't understand it enough, or it's simply not clear writing. That's the impression I got. Maybe there wasn't quite enough explanation. In general, this series focuses more on American urban legends, and that's why it doesn't explain much about werewolves, Wendigos, or the Bloody Mary. On the other hand, I would still like them to tell us later how the police ended up in that house, what happened to the werewolf and Rebecca, and so on. So I was left with vague impressions, especially due to all the shape shifting. I just didn't have time to follow them, and of course I need to pay closer attention myself. Speaking of character development, Dean Winchester turns out to be, well, more or less socially isolated. He has no friends, no one writes to him, while Sam has friends from his past life, and his past still pulls him back. For example, his colleague friends ask him, "Where have you been all this time, and how are you doing? Why did you disappear?" In general, the script and editing are still terrible, although the acting and locations are quite well done. There are some homophobic jokes. Well, it is not good. Well, how could this series be improved? I would say this: just simplify the plot. Well, how could this series be improved? I would say just simplify the plot. For example, this shapeshifter takes the form of various men, attacks women, and then women complain to the police, and these men in general are put in prison. Moreover, they were falsely accused, so by then 2 men have already been falsely accused. So suppose the Winchester brothers came to the scene of the crime. There they understand that there's a werewolf who attacks women, pretending to, well, taking the form of men. Then they hunt down this shapeshifter, say use a dog to track him to his hideout. The shapeshifter realizes that he is being hunted and begin to follow the Winchester brothers himself. Then he realizes that they were at Rebecca's house. Then he takes the form of one of the Winchester brothers and attacks Rebecca. At the same time, Rebecca manages to call one of the brothers. They arrive at Rebecca's house, see a shapeshifter fight him. Suppose someone from the neighbors saw this shapeshifter and called the police. Then the police arrives. We see the scene of assault. Then the shapeshifter runs away. The Winchester brothers are chasing him. They also run away from the police. They chase the shapeshifter to the sewers, chase him in the sewers. They find him in the sewers and kill him. And it turns out that they kill him in front of Dean. Then they dress the shapeshifter in Dean's clothes and leave him in there, after which they leave the city. Then the police find Dean dead in the sewers, well, supposedly Dan, the shapeshifter impersonating Dan. And after that, they accuse the dead Dan of the murders. I don't know how to fix the plot because this plot just doesn't work for me. There remains the Japanese or Chinese man who allegedly assaulted his wife, and if he goes to prison, that's not very good either. And I tried to read one very large analysis of this episode. Each scene is analyzed in detail, and for sure, if you study each scene and think about it, you maybe can find an explanation for everything. But you know, some things need to be explicitly said in movies or TV series, because not everyone can clearly understand the exposition. Someone will listen and look at every scene, and someone perhaps will only study English there and not always understand even the dialogues. Because there is such a pattern that the more arthouse a film is, the more it reflects the personal vision of the director and does not act according to some established templates, then the less money he can earn. This is a general rule. Sometimes there are special exceptions, but still, and probably this series was just such a little bit of a failure, somewhat weaker compared to the other episodes, because it is not always possible to clearly perceive the outline of events, what happened and why, and perhaps this outline should be simplified a little. Speaking of the topics raised by this series, I read a lot of analysis about how it supposedly raises the topic of identity or stealing your image. Well, maybe this is relevant for modern times, when you can fake my head, my voice, and my speech, and some of my thoughts and steal my image. Or when modern corporations, for example, digitize an actor and then use his image. But it's like stretching the truth. This is just a series about a shapeshifter who kills people and takes their place. And there is a subtle hint that this episode didn't fully work. It is at the very end when it becomes obvious that this Asian, who was framed by a shapeshifter, will go to prison. So the series, in my opinion, gets 7 points of 10. It's just too vague. Thank you for your attention.